Hi everyone, I'm Sarah or Childhood Finds, and I am so excited for this video. I didn't realize I would love doing these cookbook videos so much, so this is going to be part 2. If you wanted to watch part 1 with even higher value cookbooks in it, that will be linked down in the description. And so likely, I've had so much fun doing this, there's going to be a part 3 in the future sometime. And so I again made sure to focus on books that I truly thought that all of us that look for these could find them in the wild. So I did not include signed ones, with a small exception. You'll see that later on. And I didn't include unique ones that are essentially one-offs that you won't find likely ever again. So these are all ones that I think we could actually see. And there's a lot of history in some of these, and I find them very intriguing. And I can't wait to share them with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is definitely probably a classic. This is going to be Mastering the Art of French Cooking, and it's in a 2-volume set. So let's go ahead and look at Terapeak first to kind of see the price range. I found this one pretty regularly, and I would safely say going for about $50 to $100. So we can see that we're seeing one sold for $99, $90, $89, $87. And I believe this one that has a different cover was just a different style of it, but still selling for the same price as the main style you're seeing here. And so this is just a 2-volume set in a slipcover. And one thing I did notice, first, I want to point out these ones that are all the same. Those I did look, and it is a seller that had multiples. So likely they had 10 of the same. So these are all good sales. It's not just being relisted and not paid for over and over. These are all good sales. So I did check that. So I'm comfortable saying that price range is $50 to $100. So do keep in mind there is different styles to the slipcover that I'm going to show you. So here's one of them. But let me show you one that I pulled up that sold within the last 90 days. And this one is a 2021 printing. And I noticed that the printings didn't seem to matter too much, actually, which was highly surprising to me. And so I found a 1961 that sold for the same as a 2021. So I find that very interesting. So if you see the Mastering the Art of French Cooking and it's in a 2-volume set and it's affordable, I'd grab it because it's still going to sell for good money, even if it was printed recently. So that's what they look like. Let's see here. There's the 2 books, close-ups, and then you can see right here it is 2021. So then let's go on to our next book. So I only included a couple Betty Crockers. I could have made a whole Betty Crocker video, but I didn't want to do that, so I just included a couple. So this first one's going to be a 2-for-1 deal. This is going to cover Betty Crocker's picture cookbook and Betty Crocker's new picture cookbook. And I also found this one interesting because the prices are about the same. So whether you find the new or the original, they seem to go for about the same price. And that, you know, there can be somewhere as low as 60, but I feel up to 150, a little more, up to 200 is a likely range. And let's go ahead and take a look at the recent sold, or the sold within the last 2 years. So you can see here, here's the new one, and it sold for $197. And then here's the first of the 1951, and that sold for $195. So you can see that these are all, they're very intermingled. So they're really about the same value, whether you find the 1961 version or the 1950 version. So I'll let you scroll down a little farther. There's also, this one I'm finding is mostly signed. So this looks like a limited release of the 1950. This has a slipcase with it. So just another one to keep an eye out for if you find it. Also holds about the same value as the other version I'm going to show you. So let's go up close. So here is our Betty Crocker's new picture cookbook, and it was a 1961. And I do want to point out, this is a 5th printing of the 1st edition, and it sold for $125 still. So that's a book that's holding its value. So let's see if they have a copyright here. There are currently stray cats. I don't know if you can hear them on the video, just yelling outside. And I keep trying to go out to check to make sure they're okay. And they're just roaming the street, meowing. So if you can't hear them, you'll just think I'm a little baddie. So here's the copyright. And it does say right there, 1st edition, 5th printing. I have found that the Betty Crocker cookbooks are very good about saying 1st editions and printings. So thank you, Betty Crocker, for doing that. You make it easier for us. So here is the new one. And then here is the 1st edition, 1st printing of the original in the 1950. And this one sold for $124. So this, let's first look at the copyright. There's our 1st edition, zoomed in, and then we can see 1950. And there's just what the back looks like and the front looks like. So I want you to see this. This sold for $124 within the last 90 days. And then I want you to see this next one. This one sold for $70 in the last 90 days. And the corners seem to be in a bit better condition than the other one. So I don't think condition really plays to this. So there could be a couple reasons for the price discrepancy. One could be the person really just wanted to get it sold and pass on savings to the buyer and make, their quick buck. Or it could be that when they listed this, the solds were showing that this was the relative value. So they possibly didn't look into Terapeak. They did not do a dive into see what the historical value of this had been over the last 2 years on eBay. So this I just included because I wanted to again show you that it does matter to go a little farther if you have a book that holds more value and is one that is a little bit harder to find and not as common. So Terapeak will show you up to 2 years on the price value. You can even go further. You can look at WorthPoint. That goes much farther, but it is a paid service. But Terapeak on your eBay is completely free and gives you 2 years of price values. So that's why I included this, so you could remember to maybe dig a little deeper and you might get a bit more money. Let's go on to our next one. So if I butcher any names here, it is not because I'm doing it intentionally. It is just because I am ignorant on pronunciations and need to get better. So this one's going to be La Technique, Jacques Pepin, and this is a book that I found it interesting because I found that signed ones are selling for about the same price as unsigned. And so this is the one I cheated a little and included it because I found that they were about the same value. So there could be a couple reasons to that. It could be that genuinely that signature does not add that much value to a book, because there are some authors that do sign a lot and the signature just does not add as much to it. And there are some authors that only sign very rarely, and so if you get a signature, it skyrockets a value. That didn't seem to be the case for this book. And I have another point that I'll make once I show you it up close. So let's take a look here at the historical value. So this 500 seems to be a bit of an outlier, but it was over a year and a half ago. So it could be that they listed it and just waited for the right buyer. But typically I'm seeing 100 to 200 is where I'm pretty confident would be a good asking price for this. And I did note that there's 3 or 4 listed and none of them were listed. Let me look at my cheat sheet. Oh, no, this is on a different book. Scratch that. Never mind. So forget what I just said, and let's just keep going. So 100 to 200, I saw some as low as 50, but a couple of them didn't have a dust jacket. So let's keep looking here. You can see there's even ones that are 5th printing, selling for good money. So it doesn't have to be a first to sell for the best money. So let's go ahead. Oh, here it is. Here's the one without a dust jacket selling for 100. So let's go ahead and look at the up close one. So here it is, and this is the one I included. It was signed and it sold for $100 in the last 90 days. And so the other one other thing I want to include is this is a very inconspicuous signature. You know, a lot of signatures you'll see are very, very gaudy, and they're very obviously signed by the author. This, I would open this book and I might not actually think that's signed. So this is another thing. Do your research and see what it looks like if you see something interesting. So that's what I wanted to include on that. Let me see if there is a copyright here. So just so you can see that up close, there it is. So this is 1976, so it is not that old of a book. So let's keep going. Now we have, this one's cute. It's really cute. It's based on a cartoon. So this is Easy Eats, a Bee and Puppy Cat cookbook. And this was in 2016 that this was published. And this, I think I vaguely remember this show being on, but it was only on for a season in 2013. So I think people that really got attached to that show and that season are what are driving this price too. And so you can see this is very consistently selling for the $100 to $200 range is what I'm finding. But there's a ton of solds here. So this is absolutely one you should grab. But let's look at it up close. So here's one that sold in the last 90 days, and it sold for $160. And I honestly can't say I would pick this up, but it is cute, so I will now. So just keep this one in mind. And this one, yeah, again, was 2016, so very recent. All right, this one's also delightful. They're all just delightful, these cookbooks. This is Liberace Cooks, and this one was done in 1970. You know, why not? Why not branch out into this? So I'm finding regularly 50 to 100 is a pretty safe bet on what you can get. This one, again, all these commons are these same ones. I did notice it was a buyer that had multiple quantity on their listing. So these, again, what I would say are all good sales as well. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at one that sold in the last 3 months. And here it is. Sold for $89. And you can even see there's dust jacket damage. So it's not in pristine condition. And there he is. Like, this is fun. So I did notice there's a lot of photos. So probably photos that aren't super common were included. That probably added to the value. Let's see, is there a copyright? And here it is, 1970. And it is a stated first edition. So don't pass that book. This next one. So the next 2 books I am going to have... So both of these next 2 books are definitely pieces of history, I think, are what I'm going to describe them on. Pieces of history in times of change. So this is the Gay Cookbook by Chef Lou Rand. So this was, he was open about his sexuality. And that was, what's so interesting about that is this was even before the American Psychiatric Association decreed, so it was in the 1970s when the American Psychiatric Association said being gay is not a mental illness. So to be able to have the strength to publish this during this time is amazing. Piece of history. I would love to find this book. It'd probably stay with me. I gotta stop. I can't collect. I shouldn't. I'm bad. So this is a very interesting book, and it's regularly selling. You can see it's going up as high as $300. That tends to be, those are 2021 prices, so do keep an eye on the dates of when they sold, of how long it's been. But here's one that doesn't have a dust jacket, and it sold for $193 on auction in 2022 in June, so less than a year ago. But you can still see it holds a lot of value, this book. So let's take a look at one up close. This one I feel like is likely a later printing because the other ones did have a dust jacket. So keep in mind that when you're looking. So this is what it looks like. And I don't think they have a copyright, which always bothers me. But beside the point, this one sold for $79.99 and it did have free shipping. So let's go ahead and look onto the next one. This one is also pieces of history to it. So this is the Vilna Vegetarian Cookbook, Garden Fresh Recipes. So this one was published in 2015, I believe, but this is the English edition. So this book actually was published in 1938, and it was published originally in Yiddish. And this, they regularly sell for $50 to $150, the English printing. But what I believe makes it so valuable, even though it is later on, is how it came to be that we got the English printing. So in 1938, it was published by the author. The author ran a vegetarian restaurant in Lithuania. And unfortunately, her and her husband died during World War II. You can assume why. And the history pretty much seemed like it erased this book. There was probably likely a couple with family, possibly, but it was felt that because of the history and what was happening in Europe during that time, that this book had disappeared. But in 1995, there was a book fair, and a couple found this book in Yiddish, the original form, and knew that it was a piece of history, and they donated it to a Jewish Research Institute in New York City in that time, and that is why we ended up being able to have this translation into English. So I find this a very, very beautiful book. So let's look that I find it beautiful because it stood the test of time, and even though history in Europe tried to erase it, it didn't succeed. So let's take a look at it up close. I will be honest, this is absolutely 100% a book I would not look at twice. Absolutely would not look at it twice, but I sure will now. So, you know, it's nothing spectacular. And let's see if there's copyright here. Not really seeing that. But this one sold in the last 90 days on an auction for $100. So let's go into our next one. Okay. If you see a show cookbook and it's an affordable price, pick it up. Just in case. I found multiples on shows that I never would have thought. My last video included a Dark Shadow one, spoiler alert, that was valuable. And this one is a paperback. So I love finding ones that are paperbacks because people really don't look at books at sales for the most part. They look even less at cookbooks, and they really, really will not look at paperback cookbooks. So this is a really cool find. This is Murder, She Wrote Cookbook. And it was, I'm noticing there's two different ones here. There's a 1995 version it's saying, but I can't dig any deeper. And then the printing I pulled up, I believe, was in 1996. So around that time frame is when this was out. So pretty recent again. So let's go ahead and just look here. You can see this is pretty regularly selling for the $50 to $100 range. So this is absolutely one that I would price. So yeah, I'm seeing that this one here is what looks to be the first edition. So this looks like hardcover with a dust jacket. But the paperback sells for great money too. It might not be. I can't tell. Anywho, let's look at the one I pulled up. So here it is. It looks like just a basic paperback. It looks like, you know, those novels you find a million of at the thrift store. This one sold for $69.99 in the last 90 days. They did include free shipping, but it's not much. So there's what the back looks like. 100% would have passed this too. But they don't include a copyright. If you're selling books, include the copyright. Okay, so let's go into the next one. So don't pass up Murder, She Wrote cookbook. And this is my one more Betty Crocker cookbook. We allowed 2 designations in this video. And this is going to be the 1969 Betty Crocker's cookbook. And regularly selling, you can see there's 130. And that's even, oh, the 130. So ignore that one. That is a 1978 reprint by Sears, but it says that it is sealed. So this is the one we're looking at. This is what we are seeing here. And it's hard to look up because it's so generic. So let's see if we can find some more here. Here's another one, first printing, sold for $99.95. See if we can find another one. Here we go. A lot of people are saying it's a pie cover. I like that. And it is sold for $89, so regularly selling for that above $50 to $100 price. Let's look at our close-up. So there it is. There's what they mean by the pie cookbook. And this was printed in 1969. This one says it's a first edition, and it's also a first printing right here. So again, like I said before, Betty Crocker cookbooks are typically very good about telling us the printing. So yeah, pick that one up. Vintage Betty Crocker is typically one you want to pick up if it's affordable. Absolutely. So this one is also, this is Rosalind's cookbook. And so I saw that this one was published in 1999, and these are recipes from a chain that shut down. So I think what is playing the price on this one is nostalgia. So it's make people want to recreate what they ate at these chains. And I was reading that they really worked to make sure the recipes mimicked what was cooked in the kitchen there. So we're seeing the price range here, that it up to $100. Regularly seeing that, you know, a little bit lower as we go down, but definitely over $50 is what you're gonna get if you're able to find this cookbook. Let's take a look closer. There it is. It's just cute, just a little cutesy cover. You know, nothing super special. So definitely put that in your mind. Rosalind cookbook. And this one sold in the last 90 days for $95 plus shipping. See here. There's no copyright. But it looks like it is a spiral binder one. So this is absolutely one to keep an eye out for too, regularly selling for that 50 plus. And then here's our last one. This is another paperback based on a show. So this is the official Bewitched Cookbook. And I found this one interesting because it was published again in, this one was 1996. And the show, it was 8 seasons and ran from 1964 to 1972. So what they also included in this book is they included, you know, never before seen photos. They included an episode index and trivia questions. So it's not just a cookbook, but that's the main draw of it. And, you know, it's just neat. So let's take a look at these prices here. So it is, you know, we had one here as much as $175, but I think our more common prices are definitely the $50 to $100. You can see that it is regularly selling for that price. You can see here, I just want to point out, likely what happened here, this looks like the same photo about. Someone put it on auction, someone didn't pay, so then they put a fixed price, which is also a tactic to use. If you do an auction and they don't pay, you can put a fixed price on it at what it sold for, roughly. But there it is, selling for that. Some are less, but I would definitely shoot for the 50 plus on this book. And it is also just a basic paperback. So, yeah, nothing super special about it, except it is based on the show. And we can see this isn't even a first printing of it. So this is a second. And it was, the first print was actually in 1995. So correct me, I probably said 1996 earlier. So yeah, there are some more cookbooks to be on the lookout for. I hope you enjoyed it, and definitely keep your eye out. I am gonna do a part 3. I enjoyed this too much not to. All right, thanks. Take a bow. Yes.